Grok has 3 dried fish. Grok needs 5 fish to survive winter, and Grok knows this because last winter his brother Thok only had 4 fish, and Thok didn't make it to spring. So Grok borrows 2 fish from the chief. But the chief wants 3 fish back next summer, and Grok thinks he can hunt 3 extra fish when the weather gets warm. But when summer comes, Grok's spear breaks. So Grok catches only 2 fish, and now Grok has to give those 2 fish to the chief. Plus he still owes 1 more, so Grok borrows again, 3 fish this time. But the chief wants 5 back. And the cycle continues, winter after winter, with Grok falling further behind. Here's what nobody tells Grok. The chief doesn't want Grok to pay him back. Because a Grok who owes fish is a Grok who keeps hunting for the chief. Debt isn't a bug in the system, it's the whole point. I'm going to explain every level of wealth using a caveman tribe, because wealth isn't actually about how many stones you stack in your cave. And the sooner you understand the real system, the sooner you stop making the same mistakes Grok made. Look, here's the simple model. In the cave world, there are only 2 piles that matter: your meat pile and your winter pile. Your meat pile is what you can eat right now. Your winter pile is what keeps you alive when hunting stops. And every caveman exists somewhere on a spectrum between no piles at all to so many piles you need other cavemen just to count them. But here's where it gets interesting. The distance between levels isn't linear. Going from no meat to some meat is a bigger jump than going from some meat to lots of meat. And going from lots of meat to controlling all the meat is a different game entirely. The rules change at every level. The skills that got you to one level actively hurt you at the next. Start with nothing. You're living on less than 2 dried fish per day. And I'm not talking about 2 small fish. I'm talking about fish so small that even calling them fish feels generous. These are basically fish-shaped disappointments. You wake up hungry, you go to sleep hungry, and in between, you're thinking about food constantly because your brain literally can't focus on anything else when it's in survival mode. You don't have access to the clean water stream. You're drinking from the muddy runoff downstream where everyone else pisses. And you can't afford the firekeeper's fee, so you're eating raw fish when you can find them. No warmth in winter. No cooked food. No protection from predators at night. You're basically trying to survive in hard mode, with no weapons, no armor, and no save points. Now you might think the problem is just needing more fish. Get a few more fish. Problem solved. But that's not how starvation works. When you're at this level, your body is eating itself. You're weaker every day. Your brain is slower, your hands shake. So even if someone gives you a fishing spear, you can't throw it straight. The deficit compounds. Being this poor isn't just about having less stuff. It's about being locked in a spiral where poverty creates more poverty. You can't hunt well because you're weak. You're weak because you can't hunt well. And nature doesn't give bonus points for effort. But let's say you somehow get to the next level. You've got a small meat pile now, maybe 10 fish stored up. You can eat 1 fish per day, and you're technically above the starvation line. Congratulations, you're poor but not dying. And the difference feels massive. You can think about tomorrow instead of just surviving today. You can plan. You can dream about maybe fixing your spear or getting better fishing line. And here's where the system reveals itself. At this level, you face a choice every single day. Do you eat the fish or do you save it? Do you spend your energy hunting more fish or do you rest so you can hunt better tomorrow? Every decision is a trade-off between right now and later, and there's no safety net. One bad hunt, 1 cold snap, 1 injury, and you're back to nothing. You're 1 winter away from being Grok again. So you start thinking about the lower middle-class cavemen. They've got steady access to the hunting grounds. They've got reliable spears that don't break every 3 hunts. They live in decent caves, not great ones, but caves that keep the rain out and the predators away. They're bringing in maybe 3 to 4 fish per day consistently. And that consistency is the key word. They're not wondering if they'll eat tomorrow. They're wondering if they should get the nicer furs this winter or save those shells for next year. I'll give you a real example. Meet Brog. Brog hunts fish every day. Brog brings home 3 fish consistently year after year. 1 fish goes to the cave rent. The chief owns the land, so Brog pays to stay there. 1 fish goes to food and fire. One fish goes to the winter pile, and Brog is doing everything right according to the system. Brog saves his shells, Brog doesn't waste meat, Brog is responsible, but after 10 winters, Brog has saved maybe 30 fish worth of shells. And then Brog's kid gets sick. The shaman wants 15 shells. Half the savings, gone. And Brog is back to 5 winters of savings. Brog isn't broke, but Brog also isn't getting ahead. The system is designed to keep Brog right here, hunting 3 fish per day forever. But Brog has something the desperate cavemen don't have. Brog has stability. And stability means Brog can teach his kid to hunt. Brog can plan for next winter. Brog can make small improvements that compound over time. The lower middle class isn't wealthy, but they're playing a different game than the survival level. They're playing the long game, slowly, very slowly. Then you've got the middle-class cavemen. These guys have nice caves, good hunting grounds, and enough meat stored to survive 2 winters without hunting at all. They're bringing in 5 to 6 fish per day, and the math changes here. After cave rent, food, fire, and basic needs, they've got 2 fish left over every single day. 2 fish that can go into growth. Maybe they buy a better spear. Maybe they invest in learning new hunting techniques. Maybe they start a side project making fishing nets to sell to other cavemen. So the middle class has options. Not unlimited options, but options. They can take a calculated risk. They can say no to the chief's extra hunting duty because they have enough stored meat to weather the consequences. And this is where you start seeing lifestyle differences that actually matter. Middle-class cavemen go on hunting trips to other valleys for fun. They eat fresh fish instead of dried fish most days. They have backup spears, plural. They're not worried about next winter. They're thinking about 10 winters from now. And here's the kicker. The jump from lower middle class to middle class isn't about working harder. Brog hunts just as hard as a middle-class caveman. The jump is about leverage. The middle-class caveman figured out how to catch more fish per hour of effort. Maybe they have better tools. Maybe they have a better spot on the river. Maybe they have a deal with other hunters to share techniques. The system rewards efficiency, not effort. The cavemen working themselves to death are often the poorest ones. The cavemen thinking strategically are the ones moving up. But now you're asking yourself, what about the upper middle class? These cavemen have multiple hunting grounds. They've got investments. They own part of a fishing net business that other cavemen use. They're bringing in 8 to 10 fish per day, but only 3 of those fish come from their own hunting. The rest comes from leverage, from systems they built, from other cavemen paying them shells to use their tools or their land. They live in premium caves with good views. They send their kids to the elders' teaching circle, which costs shells but guarantees better hunting skills. They're members of the exclusive Mammoth Hunters Club, even though they rarely hunt mammoths. It's about status, about being in the room where decisions get made. To be fair, the upper middle class works hard. They're up early, they're strategic, they're always thinking 3 moves ahead. But they're also starting to separate their time from their income. When they sleep, their fishing nets still catch fish. When they rest, their hunting grounds still generate value. And this is the fundamental shift. Below this level, you trade time for fish. At this level and above, you trade systems for fish. Now we get to affluent. Picture a caveman who owns multiple hunting grounds, has a large meat storage cave that other cavemen rent space in, and brings in 15 to 20 fish per day without personally hunting more than once per week. They're not just comfortable, they're secure. They could stop hunting entirely for 5 winters and maintain their lifestyle. And they don't worry about the price of anything at the tribe's market. They buy the premium cuts. They commission custom spears from the best spear makers. They vacation in the warm southern valleys every winter. But here's what's different about affluent versus just wealthy. Affluent cavemen have flexibility, options, freedom. If the chief makes a stupid rule, they can just move to a different valley. If one hunting ground fails, they have 3 others. If they want to spend a year doing nothing but painting on cave walls, they can. Wealth at this level isn't about having more fish. It's about having choices. The fish is just a tool that buys the choices. So what's above affluent? Upper affluent. These cavemen control significant portions of the tribe's resources. They own the good hunting grounds. They own the fishing net business. They own the spear making operation. They might bring in 30 to 50 fish per day in passive income. And I say passive, but they're actively managing these systems. They're making decisions about which hunting grounds to expand, which businesses to invest in, which young hunters to mentor. Their wealth is working for them, but they're still working on their wealth. The upper affluent live in compounds, not caves. Multiple caves connected together, with separate areas for storage, living, and entertaining. They employ other cavemen full-time, guards, cooks, personal hunting assistants, and they're having conversations about wealth preservation, not wealth building. They're thinking about how to pass this system down to their kids, how to protect it from the chief's taxes, how to grow it without taking stupid risks that could destroy it. Then you hit millionaire. And in caveman terms, a millionaire is someone whose total stored resources equal 1 million dried fish. Not 1 million fish they can eat right now. 1 million fish worth of value. The cave, the hunting grounds, the businesses, the shells, everything combined. And at this level, you're definitely not hunting your own fish anymore. You're managing hunters who manage other hunters. You control enough resources to affect the tribe's economy. When you buy or sell hunting grounds, it changes the market price for everyone else. Here's a real scenario. A millionaire caveman named Grok owns 5 hunting grounds, a fishing net company, and a large cave complex. The hunting grounds generate 10 fish per day each. The fishing net company generates 20 fish per day in profit. The cave complex generates 15 fish per day in rent. Total passive income is 75 fish per day. That's over 27,000 fish per year. And Grok spends maybe 5,000 fish per year on lifestyle. Everything else gets reinvested. After 10 years, Grok's wealth doubles even without any new business ventures. The math just works at this scale. But being a millionaire in a small tribe is different than being a millionaire in a large tribe. In the caveman equivalent of a small town, 1 million fish worth of resources makes you the wealthiest person anyone knows. In the caveman equivalent of a big city, you're upper class but not exceptional. Context matters. Cost matters. The same resources buy different amounts of freedom depending on where you are. And then there's multi-millionaire, 5 million fish, 10 million fish, 50 million fish. At this level, the numbers stop meaning anything concrete. You're not thinking about fish. You're thinking about valleys. How many valleys do you control? How many tribes pay you tribute? How much influence do you have over the chief's decisions? Because let's be clear, at this level, wealth is just a scoreboard. The game is power. Multimillionaires own the systems that everyone else uses. They own the major hunting grounds. They own the fishing net monopoly. They own the spear making operation. They own the cave complexes that house half the tribe. And they're making decisions that affect hundreds of cavemen's lives. When they decide to expand into a new hunting ground, they create jobs. When they decide to shut down a business, they destroy jobs. The economy moves based on their choices. But here's what nobody tells you about this level. You can't actually spend the wealth. Not really. If you own 5 valleys worth of hunting grounds, you can't eat those valleys. You can't carry them with you. Your wealth is locked in the system. It's numbers on the elders' counting stones. It exists because everyone agrees it exists. You're wealthy in the same way a king is powerful. It's real, but it's also a collective hallucination that only works if everyone keeps believing in it. And finally, billionaire. 1 billion dried fish worth of resources. To put this in caveman terms, imagine you own every hunting ground in 10 valleys, every major cave complex, every fishing operation, every spear-making business. Other chiefs come to you for loans. Other tribes pay you tribute just to access the resources you control. You have more wealth than you could consume in 100 lifetimes. More wealth than your kids and grandkids could consume. The wealth has stopped being about survival or comfort or even luxury. It's about legacy, about power, about shaping what the tribe becomes. So a billionaire caveman spends maybe 500 fish per day on lifestyle, private compound, personal hunting party, the finest meats from distant lands. But that's less than 0.1% of their daily passive income. The other 99.9%? That goes into expanding the empire, buying more valleys, starting new businesses, funding exploration parties to find new hunting grounds. The wealth generates more wealth automatically, faster than they could spend it if they tried. Now here's the uncomfortable truth about billionaire level wealth in caveman terms. One caveman controls resources that could feed 10,000 cavemen. And the system is designed to keep concentrating those resources upward. Because at every level, the cavemen with more fish can buy better hunting grounds, which generate more fish, which lets them buy even better hunting grounds. The cycle compounds. And at the top, you're not even playing the same game anymore. You're playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Different rules, different objectives, different reality. But here's what the system doesn't tell you. Every level from nothing to billionaire is still just a caveman. Same basic needs, same mortality, same inability to take any of it with them when winter finally wins. The caveman with nothing and the caveman with a billion fish both end up in the same place eventually, both forgotten within a few generations. The only difference is how much anxiety they carried about protecting their meat pile while they were alive. So what do you actually do with this information? 3 things. First, understand that climbing the wealth ladder isn't about working harder. It's about changing the game you're playing. The desperate caveman needs to focus on survival and stability. The stable caveman needs to build leverage and systems. The wealthy caveman needs to protect and compound. Different levels, different strategies. Stop using poverty tactics when you're trying to reach middle class. Stop using middle class tactics when you're trying to reach wealthy. The skills that got you here won't get you there. Second, recognize that the system is designed to keep you at your current level. The chief benefits when Brog keeps hunting 3 fish per day forever. The wealthy cavemen benefit when the lower levels stay hungry enough to work, but comfortable enough not to revolt. Every level has a gravitational pull. Breaking free requires seeing the system clearly and making deliberate moves that the system doesn't expect. Save when everyone says spend. Invest when everyone says it's too risky. Build systems when everyone says just work harder. Third, decide what level actually serves your life. Because here's the secret nobody tells you. The jump from desperate to stable changes everything. The jump from stable to middle class changes a lot. The jump from middle class to wealthy changes some things. And the jump from wealthy to ultra wealthy changes almost nothing about your daily happiness. The caveman with 10 valleys isn't 10 times happier than the caveman with 1 valley. He's just 10 times more stressed about protecting 10 valleys. More isn't always better. Figure out what enough looks like for you and stop playing a game that has no winning condition. The tribe system will keep trying to extract fish from you at every level. The only way to win is to see the extraction happening and choose your response deliberately. Stay cold, stay awake, and remember that the meat pile you're building is only as valuable as the freedom it buys you. Nature always collects. The chief who hoarded 1,000,000 fish died the same winter as the caveman who had nothing. The bears didn't check their net worth before deciding who to eat.